we have to fear is
In war,
fear itself.
there is no substitute for victory.
Let us never negotiate out of fear.
We stand undivided, forever united, fighting hand in hand for the liberty we've earned, for glory and honor, for our sons and daughters, ever mindful of the lessons we've learned. Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome to the intersection of faith and politics. This is WallBuilders Live. You can learn more about us at wallbuilderslive.com and wallbuilders.com. In fact, at wallbuilderslive.com, you can get the archives of our programs over the last few months, and you may want to check out the Fridays because there's a lot of good news there, and that's what we're going to do today. It's Friday, so it's Good News Friday. I'm Rick Green here with Tim Barton and David Barton. It's time for some good news, guys. Where do you want to start?
This will surprise you. Let's start with Hollywood. No reaction? Yeah, I thought
I said this Good News Friday. Good News Friday means good news.
And I'm going to Hollywood.
And you mistakenly said something about Hollywood. I don't know where you were going with that. But, Tim, so I think we'll move over to Tim now. What do you want to do with good news, Tim?
Well, Rick, I forgot I was on the radio for a second because I was showing my dumbfounded face and nobody could see me. But I was flabbergasted. I thought this is an oxymoron. And we said good news. So clearly we need to go somewhere else.
So do we need to go back to David or
I'm going to drag both of you kicking and screaming back to Hollywood. Now, Rick, you already know because you've spoken to these guys in Hollywood. Hollywood, although they have a huge reputation for being culturally very left of center, you know there's a big group of folks there that aren't. The Friends of Abe.
True.
You know,
that's exactly right.
You've spoken to Friends of Abe. But these are guys, they're directors, they're actors, they're producers. But most of them are not very outspoken about being fairly conservative because Hollywood will beat the dickens out of them. And unless you're someone that has made a life and a career, John Voight and Robert DeVee and these kind of guys that have already made themselves names, most of the other guys are on their way up and they just, so Friends of Abe is kind of an off-the-record group that meets. But how many, there's 1,000 folks in Friends of Abe, so we're talking 1,000 Hollywood folks that are very conservative. Now, aside from that, we know that they're starting to have impact because our friend Ted Baer tells us that last year Hollywood made more pro-family movies than in the last 10 years combined. So just out of Hollywood last year, you're seeing a real trend. It's starting to look like Cecil B. DeMille days kind of stuff.
I'm starting to feel bad, Tim. How about you? I mean, here we dissed on Hollywood so much, and now David's got all this good stuff coming out. I feel a little bit bad.
Well, I did enjoy the movies this last year. But if I was thinking like 10 years ago, so if I was just thinking last year, then okay, I'll give them a pass last year. Because it really was a lot better. In fact, even just speaking of Hollywood, looking at what's going on this year, it's remarkable to see some of the movies that are coming out. The fact that Son of God came out and opening weekend, it was second in the box office. Just remarkable things are happening with faith-driven movies, with family values, traditional values. It really has been remarkable to see.
Now, if I keep you in Hollywood for a little longer, and if I ask you guys, name me Hollywood actors and Hollywood known names, high brand names, that are openly pro-life, who would you tell me? Tim's looking here like, who?
Wow. Oh.
Come on, guys.
Openly pro-life.
Openly pro-life that have taken a stand against Hollywood, and they are pro-life.
If they had a cameo in a movie, or...
No, big names.
Kevin Sorbo.
Well, now,
Hercules.
Hercules. All right, you guys are going to go down that path, are you? Okay, I'll go back to my path. All right, let's start with Jack Nicholson.
What?
No.
Yes, sir. Jack Nicholson. He says, I'm very contrary to my constituency in terms of abortion because I'm positively against it. I don't have the right to any other view. My only emotion is gratitude, literally, for my life. But he says, I'm very contrary to my constituents in terms of abortion because I'm positively against it. Now, I knew you guys would have Jack Nicholson on the top of your list.
Well, I think you're just joking with me right now.
Oh, yeah, joker. Oh, yeah,
you're
exactly.
just a joker.
We're back to Batman.
With you and Jack.
Nice try.
You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. Okay, you're serious. You're not kidding around.
I'm not kidding around.
That's awesome. I did not know that.
I'm going down a public list of Hollywood personalities who have spoken out against abortion. Anybody heard of Mel Gibson?
Yeah.
Mel Gibson. He says, one can't decide for oneself who comes into this world and who doesn't. That decision doesn't belong to us. There's Mel Gibson.
Sounds like a founding father.
Patricia Heaton. I don't think anybody chose her. Donald Trump. Do you know Donald Trump is pro-life?
That's
I
interesting.
did not know that. No, wow.
Justin Bieber, Kenny Chesney, Jordan Sparks, Kathy Ireland, and I can just keep going down the list. I'd say that's pretty good news.
Those are good
impressive.
news.
Those aren't people you hear
and
about.
in fact, Kathy Ireland, I have seen her on interviews. You're right. I've heard her talk about it.
Yep. So there's a good counterculture movement going in Hollywood. I mean, we did see it in the movies. We're seeing it at the box office. This is what people respond to. It's what they want. Is they do show up for these kind of movies. And maybe by just pure economic motivation, Hollywood will catch up with the American people again. But it's nice to have leaders in Hollywood who are willing to take up and take the step up and take the whacks. And Jack Nicholson, Mel Gibson, these other guys, bless them for standing strong.
So I need to change my attitude a little bit towards Hollywood, because when you say Hollywood, I immediately picture Bill Clinton raising money out there, Barack Obama and others raising money out there, and a lot of the left-wing stuff that comes out of Hollywood. So we got to realize there's good people there as well. And as you mentioned, some of them even pro-life, and as Ted Barrow often shares with us, a lot of the good movies and good things coming out of there. So I think that was a good reminder for all of us. That's some good news out of Hollywood. Got to take a break. We'll come back and get some more good news here on WallBuilders Live. Red, White, Blue, and Green is a new reality show following the Green family around the nation, rediscovering the American principles that made us the most successful nation in the history of the world. You can be a part of launching this new reality series by visiting rickgreen.com and clicking on the Red, White, Blue, and Green tab. Here's a sneak peek from the pilot episode. Rick Green coming to you live from the Lone Star State of Texas, a beacon of hope and freedom to liberty lovers around the world. Today I'm thinking about why do we do what we do? Because everywhere we go as a family, when we're traveling and speaking, someone comes up to us and asks, where's the hope? Is it over for America? They genuinely feel like the stars and stripes are fading. I felt that. But when I look at my family, whether it's my son Trey and his drive to exceed expectations, or Reagan and his love for serving and teaching other people, Cameron and her determination to outperform her brothers in everything she does, or my little stagehound Rhett and his boundless enthusiasm. Through their eyes, I see a vibrant nation. When my children stand in the birthplace of the Constitution, or on battlefields where patriots gave their lives, I can see in them a rekindled flame of the American spirit. The future of my children's country is bright because it's built on the foundation of an incredible providential history. A history of patriots and pastors, entrepreneurs and freedom fighters, mothers, fathers, families like yours and mine, who chose to live like their nation depended on it. And it still does. So when people ask us, where is the hope? We tell them, it's in you. Each of us, every individual, every family, has a duty to fight for freedom and add our voice, our color, to the American dream. For our family, it's red, white, and blue, and a little bit of green. To learn more about Red, White, Blue, and Green, visit rickgreen.com.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
We're back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. It's Friday. More good news coming at you. What's next, guys? We started in Hollywood. Surprise me some more.
Well, we're going to keep going west out to Hawaii. And Hawaii is a rather unique place for a lot of reasons, but their position on concealed carry is very unique. One of the things that Rick, as we travel states, and if we ever travel and take our concealed weapon with us, it's kind of a nightmare trying to get that weapon in the States, or being able to carry in all the different state laws. Well, and it's interesting even talking to people.
And I would put Hawaii at the top of that list, at least last time I went, because I had to go stand in line at the police station for about 3 hours to get a temporary permit, not to carry, just to have it in the home where we were staying, because we were going to be there, and family was there and all that, and I wanted to at least have one in the home, but could not carry when we went out from that home. But even just to have a weapon at home to defend us, had to stand in line for 3 hours and go take my gun, show them everything. Anyway, sorry, I'm just complaining a little here. Go ahead.
Well, but that's the reality of the way it's been. One of the things about the Hawaii law is they have what's called a may issue practice, where that you are not guaranteed if someone wants to be able to carry a concealed weapon, because Hawaii does have a concealed weapon law in their state that you can have a concealed weapon, but you are not guaranteed that you are going to be accepted to be able to have a concealed weapon. So they have what's called a may issue, which means they might issue you the ability to carry.
And I'm sorry to jump in on you again, bro, but while I was there, I found out in Honolulu, never. They didn't give any concealed handgun license, even to people that had, what do you call it, a restraining order against somebody that was after them.
Right.
I mean, there were no exceptions. The police chief was the one that had to make the decision, and they didn't give them to anybody.
Well, and that's exactly where we're going is last year there were 5 people.
Since it's a mother may I kind of thing, the answer is no, you may not. Mother may I carry my gun that I'm licensed to carry? No, you may not. And that's as opposed to a shall carry state, which if you go to those cops and say, I've got a concealed license, then it says, okay, you shall issue a permit. So there's some states that are like that. California is one of those may issue states, which is why the county of San Bernardino County in California, everybody loves living there because that sheriff takes the position that, well, for me, may carry is shall carry. You come to me with a permit and you're going to get one. And so that whole mentality of may, it's like I'm having to go to government to get permission to do what the Second Amendment guarantees me that I have a right to do, and what natural law guarantees me I have a right to do, and what the Declaration through the laws of nature, nature's God guarantees me. I got to go get permission from the government to do it.
Well,
okay, I'll shut up.
Here's where it gets interesting because
Tim, have you noticed you hit a hot button issue for everybody here?
You have found the problem. You have identified it quite well. We've outlined it very well. Well, in 2012,
and I said nobody, but I think you were about to correct me on that. It sounds like maybe a handful.
No, not yet. In 2012, there were only 5 people that applied, and they were all denied. Well, there was one. There was one guy who applied, and he was really frustrated. He got turned down, and so he actually took it to court, and the case was denied by the district court, but it was appealed to the 9th Circuit.
Oh no. The 9th Circuit?
The 9th Circuit.
No, wait, guys, it's
yes.
Good News Friday. We're not allowed to talk about the 9th Circuit on Good News
now,
Friday.
Rick, we had a conversation just a couple weeks ago how that it's getting ridiculous how many good decisions are starting to come out of the 9th Circuit.
You're right.
You cannot trust what they're going to do because just when you thought you knew them, they switch it up on you. The 9th Circuit recognized that Hawaii was prohibiting the Second Amendment, people's ability and the right to carry arms. And so they have gone against this shall issue and said that you actually gone against the may issue and said that it needs to be a shall issue, that these guys have the right to do that, which, by the way, Rick, my dad and I, when we have the opportunity to go to Hawaii, we like to go scuba diving. And one of the guys that we've gone diving with, he's lived there for I don't know how many years, and he has constantly voiced his frustration that in Texas we have the ability and we have so many freedoms to use our firearms, and in Hawaii, how limited he is. And so I can only imagine the next time we see him, how excited he's going to be that instead of having to ask, may I, and be told no, that now there is a shall, that he shall be able to carry. So great news.
Is this like what happened in Illinois as well?
Yeah.
Because they had kind of a similar deal where they weren't, their law was so hard to deal with, and the court said, guys, it's basically a de facto nobody gets a gun law. And so they made them change it. Is that kind of what's going to happen to Hawaii now?
After the Heller and McDonald decisions came down and the Supreme Court said, hey, the Constitution guarantees the right to keep and bear arms and you can't abridge that, then a lot of cities started saying, okay, but we can make the paperwork process last about 23 years. So you can get your gun permit, but it'll be about 23 years from now after you fill out 4,700 forms. And that's where courts are starting to step in now and say, no, you can't do a bureaucratic end around on the Second Amendment. And so Illinois had tried to do that. You got Hawaii here. I mean, this is good news that even the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals is saying, no, you can't do an end around on the Second Amendment. That's great news.
Man, Tim, you've made my day. That is good. That's very good news. In fact, I just might go back now. I've had a couple of requests to go back and speak there, and I hate not being able to carry. Now maybe I can.
You don't have to keep putting them off. They are now allowing us as Texans to practice our God-given right of self-defense.
Awesome. That's great news. All right, guys, another quick break. We'll be back with more good news here on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. Since the Ten Commandments have formed the basis of civil law in the Western world for over 2,000 years, an individual is more likely to find a copy of them in a government building rather than a religious one. Yet amazingly, numerous rulings over recent years now make it unconstitutional to display the commandments in many public arenas. Consider what Founding Father John Adams said about this. He declared, "The moment the idea is admitted into society that property is not as sacred as the laws of God, anarchy and tyranny commence. If thou shalt not covet and thou shalt not steal were not commandments of heaven, they must be made inviolable precepts in every society before it can be civilized or made free. John Adams believed that no society could remain civilized if separated from the Ten Commandments.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8-REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. It's Good News Friday. We've already had quite a bit of good news. Guys, where do you want to go next for some good news?
I want to talk about some of the bad consequences of this global warming we're having, because we can't stand this much snow in the South. It is getting really bad here. And so, we've had snow going longer than it should have gone, dumping amounts it shouldn't have dumped. And I'm hoping we can get back to global warming so we can have some good temperatures.
Well, just paying my heat bill has been quite a frustration.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm ready for global warming to come on back.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Not just in Texas. This is way across the country.
Well, I want to take you to one of our southern states that hardly gets any snow at all. And down in Alabama, they got pounded. They got a blizzard. And blizzard comes through, and, of course, we in the South don't know how to drive in a blizzard. And so, wrecks everywhere, fatalities like crazy, and so much snow. And, of course, in Birmingham, how many snow plows do you have parked in Birmingham? Come on, we don't have that kind of stuff. So what happened with all these wrecks and whatnot, there were some really serious injuries, and one was a very traumatic brain injury. It was a type of a brain injury that put this person at risk of losing their life. It was that bad. And so at the hospital, the problem was the blizzard had shut down all the roads, and nobody could get to the hospital. And so you got this traumatic brain injury at the hospital. They need the brain surgeon, and the brain surgeon can't get there. They can't get him there. So bless this guy's heart, and I cannot pronounce his name, but I'm going to give it a shot. Dr. Zinko Harinki walked 8 miles to the hospital to perform the brain surgery. And I go, that's a kudos. Way to go. Very few people with that kind of commitment and say, I just can't get there. But that's good news that we still have the Good Samaritan type of people who are willing to inconvenience themselves to great degrees to go help somebody else. And that's a guy who needs a shout out in Birmingham, Alabama, that doctor.
That's really impressive. And it's also unique that there's finally somebody now that can say, I walked 8 miles
in the snow. That's right.
Uphill. Both ways.
But was it uphill both ways?
Yeah. Well, it is when parents tell their kids.
When it was just snowing, he was going uphill, but after the snow, it had built up so much behind Sam that when he came back, it was uphill again. Because then it was like 6 or 8. So I think we can say uphill both ways.
Is this the story that your dad's been telling you all these years about his school experience? Is that how he explains the uphill both ways thing?
He's really helped my reasoning abilities a lot. We practice quite often.
All right, so we got good news from the South. Anywhere else?
Yeah, well, actually, this one is South-oriented, but also around the nation. We've talked often about the positive things we've had with the current legislators, with the efforts we've made in the pro-life front, where we are saving so many babies. Well, a report came out that last year, 87 abortion facilities have discontinued offering surgical abortions, which is just incredible news, and largely because there's been so many laws passed that now abortion clinics have to have admitting privileges in local hospitals. And frankly, because of the way that they conduct these abortions and the staff they have conducting the abortions, they don't have admitting privileges. And so they are having to shut these shut these abortion clinics, these murder facilities down, because they cannot admit to hospitals if and when these things go wrong for the mothers and everyone involved. So really great news in Texas. They identified there were 19 clinics. In fact, just last month, there were a couple more that got closed down, and so the number is continuing to grow. So great news. These abortion facilities are continuing to close down, and all because we are prioritizing. Unfortunately, we're not prioritizing the life of the child as much at this point, but we are prioritizing the life and the health of the mother. And so people are recognizing this is not healthy for the mother to have this procedure done where she can't be admitted if and when something goes wrong. And so we haven't obviously solved the problem because we're not valuing the unborn as we should yet, but we are stepping in the right direction because we are able to close these facilities down that are having these surgical abortions. So that is really good news.
And it will be very interesting to see how many lives actually have been saved. You know, when we're able to look back on this 3, 4, 5 years from now when they can compile that data, not only the lives of the moms that are saved, but also how many babies are saved just because there's fewer abortion clinics, moms rethink it, family has a chance to intervene.
Well, and you just start thinking about on average how many murders or abortions happen at those clinics every day. And when you have 87 clinics that are closed down, surgical clinics that are closed down, now you're talking exponentially the lives every day that the mother doesn't have a choice anymore in a lot of situations, which I know offends so many people in Planned Parenthood and so many groups. Well, the mother should have a choice. Well, this is the positive news, is that now there are fewer places to have that quote unquote choice. And so lives are being saved.
And if I recall right from us talking with some of the former abortion providers, each one of those clinics needs to do about 22 to 25 abortions a day to stay in business. And so when you're talking 80 of those clinics at that level, you know, you're talking 1,500 lives a day. And that's a lot of lives to be saved just by shutting down those clinics in the last 12 months.
That's powerful, guys. That is truly good news. Got to take a quick break. Stay with us, folks, here on WallBuilders Live.
Hey guys, this is Tim Barton with WallBuilders, and I know you hear my dad and Rick talk a lot about our founding fathers, about the original intent of our nation, the constitutional heritage that we have, and really we've seen how far we've slipped away from that. And I know a lot of us, as we hear my dad and Rick talk, think, I wish there was a place that I could go and I could see these documents, and I could read and learn about the founding fathers firsthand, see the things they did. And I want to give you some websites today that can help you accomplish that very thing. If you get online, you can go to places like Library of Congress, and you can look under their Century of Lawmaking or historical documents. You can go to the Avalon Project, to the Founders Constitution, to Google Books, or even the Internet Archives, or you can just go to WallBuilders' website. We have a section for our library, and under that section we have different subgroups for historical documents, historical writings, even a place where you can get helpful links to find out more information about other websites where you can do research for yourself and find the truth for yourself. Friends, this is a time that we need to know who we are and where we came from. WallBuilders.com is a great place to go.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. One more segment of good news today, guys. What's next?
Going to you. When you were a Texas legislator, did you deal with charter schools?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was just on the rise, really, in Texas. Big push during those years.
Yeah. I think the first charter schools came into existence in 1992. I didn't know how long it took for us to get moving on them, but I know that it's a big issue now, and I know that a lot of it is a form of public school choice within education. So there are a lot of educational agencies that still don't like charter schools, but they don't have as much problem with them as they do with Christian or religious schools. But they don't like anything that cuts into that government bureaucracy of government education.
And monopoly.
Monopoly. That's better said. That's right. That government monopoly. So charter schools allow a lot of flexibility and allow a lot of competition that they're not prepared for. But we now, for the first major time, have a significant study on charter school results. And the charter school results looked at kids who spent the majority of their career, their educational career, in charter schools versus the majority that came out of government schools. And what they're finding is a significant difference in the probability of attending and staying at college. But I thought the income level was really significant. There's about a 13% income level higher if you've gone to a charter school than if you've gone to a government school. So even though a charter school is a government school, it's a government school that eliminates a lot of the bureaucracy and the monopoly. And so kids coming through that system are on average, their income is 13% higher than their counterparts in the government-regulated, government bureaucracy schools.
Well, I know what to do. What we need to do is shut charter schools down because it's not fair that some of those kids have the opportunity for a better education and more success in life. So we just need to make everybody go to public schools. That's the way it's more fair.
That way they can all have lower income. That's right.
Yeah, everybody can fail miserably together.
Well, I just heard this great idea up in New York from a really successful leader up in New York, and I thought, well, he had a great idea. Let's not let anybody be successful. So I want to propose that. Let's not let anyone be successful again. That way we can be together in our misery because it does love company.
Or maybe, just maybe, we go the other direction and say we'll let every kid have a chance. We'll let every kid choose. Every
that's
parent
an interesting
so
thought.
every kid could actually get a good education.
You know, Tim and I were just with Congressman Jim Jordan from Ohio, and Jim was one of the guys that almost 20 years ago, as a state legislator, helped do those scholarships for Cleveland schools. And that was really the first kind of school choice that there was in the country. Milwaukee was right around that time as well. And Jim is talking about the difference it's made in those schools, the difference it's made in those parents, and how that parents are just fighting, scratching, and clawing to be one of the 7,000 that get the scholarship to get out of the failing schools in Cleveland. They want out. They get less money to get out, but they get their kids' life back and they get their kids' education back. And so even though if you get that scholarship in Cleveland to go to one of those schools on that voucher thing, it's not nearly as much as what the kid gets paid for being at public school. The results are so much higher that parents are piling on top of each other, scratching, clawing to be one of the 7,000 who gets one of those vouchers. And that's a pretty good indication itself that the free market system works if you can just get the government bureaucracy out of the way.
And I'll tell you guys, it breaks your heart when you watch, Waiting for Superman or Won't Back Down, these movies that have been made where you see those raffles. You see them, drawing that ping pong ball out, and you look at all those hundreds of families and those kids, and you see these kids literally crying because their name wasn't chosen for the few slots that are available, and they're forced to go back to that school where they're fighting off guns and gangs instead of learning. We should allow competition for all of these kids.
Absolutely.
It would change lives, and it would change our entire nation and improve our education. Well, folks, thanks for staying with us. Thanks for enjoying some good news with us today here on WallBuilders Live.
We stand undivided.